Good evening, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. This is Rich again, back for your third and final video blog of the night for Wednesday, December 30th, 2015, around 7:27 in the evening, Billerica, Massachusetts. It's cloudy out. We're going to have some freezing rain tonight, an advisory and stuff. Going to be cold, but tomorrow's supposed to warm up to the 40s, get some of the snow melted, so it could be soft, so you could shovel it more, make pathways for your dogs or cats or whatever, and be less icy. Some news to report. There's rumors running wild that the Philadelphia Eagles are interested in Jon Gruden as the next head coach. Jon Gruden is on Monday Night Football, and he says he's not going to coach ever again. But if the Philadelphia Eagles give him the money, he'll take it. And that's about it on that. My third and final video blog subject of the night is about the history of the WWE Intercontinental Championship from 1979 through 2002. The WWE Intercontinental Championship was a stepping stone for superstars to become the world champion, and a lot of Intercontinental champions became WWE Championship. A history of the Intercontinental Championship. It started in 1979 when the WWE brought in a new title belt called the North American Championship, and the champion was Ted DiBiase, who lost it to Pat Patterson on a WWE Championship Wrestling edition in July of 1979. Then, a couple months later, the title was rebranded the Intercontinental Championship, and Pat Patterson won a Factionist tournament in Rio de Janeiro by beating Antonio Inoki. There's no footage of the tournament. The tournament did not exist. And Pat Patterson was awarded the Intercontinental title because they rebranded it, because there were a lot of other promotions, regional promotions, that the top title was the North American Championship, including Mid-South Wrestling and World Class Championship Wrestling, and Vince McMahon Sr. respected the other regional promotions, so he had to rebrand the North American title as the Intercontinental title, and Pat Patterson was the first champion, and he held the belt for about 7-8 months. He was a heel at first, managed by the Grand Wizard of Wrestling, but he turned face because he did not want to be managed by Captain Lou Albano, because the Wizard sold his contract because he was having money issues. The storyline: Pat Patterson drops the Intercontinental title to the world's strongest man, Olympic strongman Ken Patera, at Madison Square Garden in April of 1980. Ken Patera holds the IC Championship for approximately 8.5 months. He defended it against Tony Atlas, Andre the Giant, and other superstars. He dropped it to Pedro Morales in December of 1980 in Madison Square Garden, and Pedro had a reign of Intercontinental Championship. He had 2 reigns of Intercontinental Championship. Pedro Morales was the first WWE superstar ever to hold the Triple Crown: the WWE Championship, the Tag Team Championship, and the Intercontinental Championship. Pedro Morales' first reign, he defended it against Sergeant Slaughter and Killer Khan and Angelo King Kong Moscow and others. He dropped it to the magnificent Don Muraco in Philadelphia in June of 1981, but a few months later, Pedro Morales regained it at Madison Square Garden in November of 1981 in a Texas Death Match. And Pedro Morales held the Intercontinental title for almost a year and 2 months, and in 1982 he held it the entire 365 days. He was the only man ever to hold the Intercontinental title for 1 year without losing it. And during that year, 1982, Pedro defended it against Greg the Hammer Valentine and Playboy Buddy Rose and Jimmy Superfly Snuka and others. but he dropped it in January of 1983 back to the magnificent Don Muraco, who held it for about a year or so. And the magnificent Muraco defended it against all comers, including Rocky Johnson and Tito Santana and Iron Mike Sharp and Superfly Jimmy Snuka. They had a classic cage match at Madison Square Garden when Jimmy Superfly Snuka leaped over the top rope, jumped on top of the cage, but Muraco got out of it. In that, Muraco dropped the Intercontinental title to Tito Santana at Boston Garden in February of 1984. Tito held on to it for about approximately 7 months. He defended it against Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff, Cowboy Bob Orton, and others. He wanted the title. Tito wanted the title to be. He wanted it to be dropped to Paul Mr. Wonderful Orndorff, and they started a long-running feud where Tito was going to regain it. But that program went to Greg the Hammer Valentine. Greg the Hammer Valentine beat Tito Santana at a TV taping in September of 1984, using the figure 4 leg lock and injuring his knee. Tito was getting legitimate surgery, and I found out when I went to a house show for Boston Garden in October of 1984 that Greg the Hammer Valentine beat Tito Santana for the Intercontinental title, and the title match was not even shown on television yet, because back then when champions would win the title on a TV tape-in or a house show, they would have to wait a few weeks before it clears television and stuff like that, because sometimes they might win it, but they might cancel the title reign. And Greg the Hammer Valentine held the Intercontinental title for about 9 months, had one of the longest running feuds with Tito Santana, plus defended against the Junkyard Dog and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, and among others. Tito regains it against Greg the Hammer Valentine in a steel cage match in Baltimore, Maryland in July of 1985. Hammer destroys the old Intercontinental Championship. Tito gets a new one, and Tito holds it for about second reign for about 6.5 months, defending it against Jesse the Body Ventura, Greg the Hammer Valentine, Brutus Barber, Beefcake, but he drops it to Randy the Macho Man Savage in February 1986 at a house show in Boston, Massachusetts. Randy Savage holds the Intercontinental title for about 1 year and close to 2 months, defending it against all comers, including Tito Santana, George the Animal Steele, Pedro Morales. They had a couple of classic matches at Madison Square Garden. Billy Jack Haynes, Bruno Sammartino, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, which they started that feud on Superstars of Wrestling when Ricky the Dragon Steamboat got to crush Larynx and stuff like that. That storyline was pretty awesome. I mentioned it on a previous video blog about a year ago, so you could go check that out. And Macho Man and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat had a classic match at WrestleMania 3, probably one of the best matches in WrestleMania history up to that point. And Ricky the Dragon Steamboat wins the Intercontinental title, and he was supposed to have a long title reign. But he wanted to have a baby. His wife at the time, Bonnie, was going to deliver it in June of 1987. Vince McMahon said, okay, you can take a couple of weeks off, but Vince reneged on that promise. He had to take the belt off of Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, the Intercontinental title. Rumor had it Ricky the Dragon Steamboat was going to drop it to the Natural Bus Tweed at a TV tape in Buffalo, New York in June of 1987. But the Natural was not where to be found, and it was given to the Honky Tonk Man. Honky Tonk Man beat Ricky the Dragon Steamboat on an edition of Superstars of Wrestling in June of 1987, and for the next 14.5 months, the Honky Tonk Man was the Intercontinental Champion. He was the greatest Intercontinental Champion of all time, baby. He defended it against Randy Macho Man Savage, and he defended against the Billy Jack Haynes, Brutus Barber Beefcake, a long feud. The Barber was supposed to get the title at SummerSlam 1988. He beat the Honky Tonk Man at WrestleMania 4 by disqualification, but the fans got tired of the Brutus the Barber Beefcake chasing the Honky Tonk Man. Brutus Barber Beefcake was attacked by Outlaw Lambast the week before SummerSlam 1988. And the Honky Tonk Man defended the Intercontinental title at SummerSlam 1988 against a mystery opponent. But that mystery opponent was the Ultimate Warrior, who was getting big in the WWE, being popular and stuff. He was the next big star. And the Warrior beats the Honky Tonk Man in 30 seconds to become the new Intercontinental Champion. And the Warriors was running wild. 8-month title reign, first reign. He beat Honky Tonk Man and other competitors, but he dropped it at WrestleMania 5 to Ravishing Rick Rude with help from Bobby the Brain Heenan. And Rick Rude defends the title for about maybe approximately 4 months, having long feud with Warrior over the Intercontinental title. Warrior beats Rude at SummerSlam 1989 with help from Rowdy Piper. And the Ultimate Warrior's second reign as Intercontinental Champion lasts till WrestleMania 6 when he beats Hulk Hogan for the WWE World title. But he was stripped of the Intercontinental title because there was a rule that a champion can't hold 2 titles at one time. So the title was put on a tournament, and Mr. Perfect beat Tito Santana for the Intercontinental title in May of 1990. The finals. What was unique about this tournament? They had some of the first round matches taped after the finals were taped and stuff. That was an unusual tournament and stuff, because back then they taped Superstars and Wrestling Challenge weeks in advance before it aired on television and stuff, so that was a unique tournament. Mr. Perfect was slated to drop the Intercontinental title to Brutus the Barber Beefcake at SummerSlam 1990, but on July 4th, 1990, Brutus Barber Beefcake's face was destroyed in a Palisade accident, so that was cancelled. And in its place, the Texas Tornado, Kelly Von Erich, who came to the WWE a few months prior, beat Mr. Perfect at SummerSlam 1990, but that was a big mistake because Kelly was seriously on drugs at that point, and the WWE realized it was a mistake. They put the belt back on Mr. Perfect in December of 1990, and Perfect had a 9-month reign as the WWE Intercontinental title the second time around, feuding with the Big Boss Man and the Texas Tornado. He had some great matches on house shows with Piper, and had some with Davey Boy Smith, the British Bulldog. But in the summer of 1991, Mr. Perfect blows out his back. He couldn't wrestle for weeks and on end. He tried to wrestle at TV tapings, but he looked horrible and stuff. He dropped it to Bret the Hitman Hart at SummerSlam 1991 in a great match. It was probably one of the best matches of SummerSlam history. Bret carried Perfect to a great match. Bret Hart became Intercontinental Champion, and he held it for about 4 months, defending it against all comers like the Berserker, the Warlord, the Mountie, and a few others. He dropped it to Mountie at an untelevised house show in Springfield, Massachusetts in January 1992. Supposedly, Bret wrestled with a 104-degree temperature, but that was a storyline. Piper beats the Mountie for the Intercontinental title 2 days later at Royal Rumble 1992. Piper had a brief reign and stuff, and he dropped it to Bret at WrestleMania 8 in Indianapolis, Indiana, and Bret has a long-running feud over the Intercontinental title with Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels was slated to beat Bret the Hitman Hart at SummerSlam 1992, which was originally going to be in Washington, D.C. in a ladder match, but the advance ticket sales for SummerSlam 1992 in Washington, D.C. was horrible, so they moved it to Wembley Stadium in London, England, and Bret suggested that the British Bulldog Davey Boy Smith wins the wins the Intercontinental Championship against him at SummerSlam 1992 to get a big pop. But the plan was that the British Bulldog was going to drop it to Shawn Michaels eventually in the fall, and the British Bulldog did not know about this. He did not know he was going to be a short-term champion. British Bulldog beats Bret the Hitman Hart over 80,000 people at SummerSlam, despite British Bulldog being basically immobile at times because of a bad back. And it was one of the biggest pops of all time. Davey Boy Smith holds it for approximately 2 months. He drops it to Shawn Michaels. Shawn Michaels holds the Intercontinental title for about 7 months. There were at least 2 plans for him to drop it, the Intercontinental title, during that reign at Royal Rumble 1993 against Marty Jannetty, but Marty Jannetty showed up drunk, and they had to cancel the title reign, and Marty was fired the next day. Shawn retains it. Also, Shawn was supposed to lose it to Tatanka at WrestleMania 9 to continue Tatanka's undefeated streak, but Shawn Michaels threw a hissy fit. He said he would have walked out because he thought Tatanka wasn't over with the crowd, so that was changed to a count out. Shawn Michaels dropped it to Marty Jannetty on an episode of Raw in May 1993 with help from Mr. Perfect, but a few weeks later, at an untelevised house show, Shawn Michaels regains the Intercontinental title against Marty Jannetty with help from Diesel. And Shawn Michaels continued his feud with Mr. Perfect, plus he had a good match with Crush at King of the Ring 1993. Shawn Michaels beat Mr. Perfect by by count out at SummerSlam 1993. He was slated for a long-running program with Razor Ramon over the Intercontinental title, where I think Ramon was going to beat him at Royal Rumble 1994, and Shawn was going to regain it at WrestleMania 10 in a ladder match, but Shawn was suspended in September of 1993 for failing a drug test. Steroids. He said he didn't take steroids. He said somebody slipped steroids in his drink and stuff, but this was a time when the WWE's had a strict drug testing policy. He was suspended 30 days. The title needed to be vacant, and Razor Ramon beat Rick Martel in a match, kind of out of a battle royal, to become the Intercontinental Champion. He has like an 8-month reign for the Intercontinental Championship, facing off against IRS, Ludwig Borga, Shawn Michaels, and others. They had a classic ladder match at WrestleMania 10, the best ladder match in history. Razor drops it to Diesel on an edition of WWE Superstars in April of 1994, and Diesel holds it for approximately a few months, but he drops it to Razor Ramon at SummerSlam 1994, and Razor continues his reign, and he feuds with Jeff Jarrett for many months. Jeff Jarrett wins it at Royal Rumble 1995, and Jeff Jarrett kind of has a 6.5 month title reign. With it, he actually won it 2 more times. One was against Bob Harley. It was a tape for Action Zone. Bob Harley actually won it, but it had to be reversed because of the referee's reversing decision. And at the next week, Jeff Jarrett wins it again, and then they have it on an untelevised house show in Canada where Razor Ramon beats Jeff Jarrett in a ladder match, and a few days later Jeff Jarrett wins it back at In Your House 1995, the second one. Shawn Michaels beats Jeff Jarrett for the Intercontinental title for the time, and he holds it for 3 months, but he forfeits it to Shane Douglas, which was Sting Douglas, at In Your House in Winnipeg, Canada. And there was a report that Shawn Michaels got beat up by 13 thugs in Syracuse, New York, a few weeks prior. But that was just was kind of bullshit and stuff. Wasn't just a storyline. So Shawn Michaels he did not want to drop it to Dean Douglas in the ring. So they had to do the forfeit. But Dean Douglas held for approximately 20 minutes. Then Razor Ramon beats him. And that destroyed Dean Douglas's career in the WWE. Razor Ramon was the champion again for the 4th time. But he only lasted 2.5 months as champion, as Goldust, who's Dustin Rhodes, beat Razor Ramon at Royal Rumble 1996 to become the Intercontinental title champion. This was when Goldust was a big heel and stuff. I might have to do his run in the WWE from 1995 through 1999 in a future video blog. Goldust held it twice. He actually lost it to Savio Vega on a Raw taping in April of 1996, but they had to reverse the decision, upheld it, but Goldust wins it back, and Goldust gets a feud with Ahmed Johnson, and he kissed him and stuff, mouth-to-mouth resuscitation during after a match. Ahmed gets mad. Ahmed at King of the Ring 1996 beats Goldust to become the first African American Intercontinental Champion. And they were pushing Ahmed Johnson to the moon. Even the WWE had a plan. He was going to be WWE Champion sometime in 1997. But Ahmed got injured in a match when a newcomer called Farouk attacked him. Ahmed had to vacate the Intercontinental title. They have a tournament, and the tournament final on Raw of September 1996. That was the same Raw when Jim Ross did his infamous heel turn and blasted Vince McMahon, calling him the egotistical owner of the WWE and stuff, which that was supposed to be a match at WrestleMania 13, but that never happened. The Wild Man Mark Mello beats Farouk for the Intercontinental Championship. And Wild Man Mark Mello only has a 1-month title reign. He drops it to Triple H, Hunter Hearst Helmsley, on a live edition of Raw in October of 1996. It was supposed to be Mr. Perfect facing off against Triple H, but Triple H fakes it's Mr. Perfect. It was all a ploy. Mr. Perfect wasn't really hurt. He turns on Mark Mello, and Triple H holds it for approximately 4 months, defending against the Wild Man Mark Mello and Goldust. But he drops it on a special Thursday edition of Monday Night Raw in Lowell, Massachusetts on February 1997, the same one when Shawn Michaels lost his smile to a newcomer called Rocky Maivia, who's now known as Rock. But this 2-month reign with Rocky Maivia as Intercontinental Champion was absolutely the worst. He was a babyface, but there was chance for the crowd. Rocky sucks. Rocky sucks. Rocky die. Die. Rocky die. Die. Rocky die. The boos was awful, killing the guy. And there were rumors he was going to drop it to Sultan, who was one of his cousins. Sultan is like Fatu, Rikishi Fatu at WrestleMania 13. Thank God that never happened. It would have been atrocious if the Sultan became Intercontinental Champion. I think Julie Barton and Heidi Brett would make better Intercontinental Champions than the Sultan. Anyway, Rocky lost it to Owen Hart on an edition of Monday Night Raw in April of 1997. Owen dedicated the match to his brother, Bret, and Owen held it for approximately 3 months, and he dropped it to Stone Cold Steve Austin at SummerSlam 1997. In that match where Stone Cold suffered partial paralysis for a few minutes. But Stone Cold was in no condition to defend the title, so they had to vacate it again. Owen regains it at Bad Blood in October of 1997 in your house. He holds it for 1 month. Then he drops it to Stone Cold at Survivor Series 1997. Stone Cold goes into a feud with The Rock. And on a live edition of Monday Night Raw in December of 1997, Stone Cold forfeits the title to The Rock. And And like Stone Cold kills the Stunner. He says, same Stone Cold time, same Stone Cold channel. And he bumps Vince McMahon and stuff. And the next week on Raw, he throws that Intercontinental Championship in the hot water in a river in New Hampshire. Rock holds it for approximately 9 months. And he brought credibility to the Intercontinental Championship. He defended it against Ken Shamrock and Farouk and Triple H and so many others. This is when the Rock was good as a heel. And at SummerSlam 1998 in a ladder match, The Rock loses it to Triple H with the low blow by China. But a few weeks later, Triple H can't wrestle because he suffers an injury. And then they put it up in a tournament. It's won by Ken Shamrock. Ken Shamrock, the world's most dangerous man, holds it for 3 months, but he drops it to Val Venus at St. Valentine's Day Massacre 1999. Then it's a hot potato for the Intercontinental Championship for 1999. Several wrestlers hold it, including the Road Dogg Jesse James and Goldust again, and the Godfather. Come get on the whole train. And Jeff Jarrett and Edge at a house show. Jeff Jarrett again, D'Lo Brown, Jeff Jarrett again, and in October of 1999, the first woman to hold the Intercontinental Champion, the ninth one of the world, China, in a Good Housekeeping match against Jeff Jarrett, whose contract expired for the WWE. It wasn't renewed, and he went to WCW the night after. China held it for about approximately 2 months, and she became co-champion with Chris Jericho on a live edition of Monday Night Raw in January of 2000. And then at the Royal Rumble 2000, Chris Jericho wins it to become the sole Intercontinental Champion by beating China and Bob Sparkplug Holly. Then it's a hot potato again for a long time for the Intercontinental Champion. It goes from Chris Jericho, Kurt Angle, Chris Benoit, back to Jericho, back to Chris Benoit, to Rikishi, to Val Venus, to Eddie Guerrero, China, Eddie Guerrero, Billy Gunn, goes to eventually Chris Jericho again, and then back to Benoit and Jericho again, and then Triple H, then Jeff Hardy, then Triple H again, then to Kane and Albert, Lance Storm, Edge, Christian, Edge, Test. It goes to somebody else. I think it may be Rob Van Dam. Then it goes to Lord William Regal, RVD, Rob Van Dam. I think Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit. Back to Eddie Guerrero. I think Jericho won it again. Then Rob Van Dam, and then Chris Jericho, and then Kane again. And in October of 2002, well, this run of the Intercontinental title ends. It goes to Triple H because they were merging the Intercontinental title to the World Heavyweight Championship. This was the time with the brand split extension, and it was kind of disappointing they had to end the Intercontinental Championship at this time. But the last few years of the Intercontinental Championship, it was a hot potato of who was holding it. They couldn't have long title reigns because this is when they were basically changing titles every other week because they were still in the Monday Night Wars and stuff. And they didn't have long reigns of Intercontinental Championships. And there was a rumor going around, originally the top championship in Raw at that time was going to be the Intercontinental Championship, but Triple H got pissed about that, so he made his own World Championship. The World Heavyweight Championship was actually the old WCW and NWA big gold belt. And that was it for the Intercontinental Championship. It got revived a few months later in May of 2003, and that's another story for another day. The heyday of the Intercontinental Championship was probably in the mid 80s to early 90s. It was an awesome title. It was probably maybe one of the top 5 championships in all of professional wrestling in the 1980s, in my humble opinion. And some great men held it and stuff like that. And it was, probably maybe the best championship in the WWE besides the WWE World Championship. And that's it about the history of the Intercontinental Championship from 1979 to 2002. Be back tomorrow, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter for the final 3 video blogs of 2015. First video blog will be about the top 10 sports stars ever to wear the number 59. And then the second video blog will be about my power rankings for January of 2016. This one will be about NHL, like the top 10 NHL teams of January of 2016. And the third and final video blog of the night, and the final one in 2015, it will be about kind of New Year's resolutions for some famous people in the world. That's what I'm going to do. Make some New Year's resolutions for some famous people. Keep calm, everybody. I'm a Julie Bunning guy. Molly Rosenblatt of WCCO Channel 4 in Minneapolis, St. Paul. Roxanne has nice legs. Elizabeth's head hot, so sunny, and she's stunning. Has nice legs as well. Amy Swansea rocks. Barbara Gibbs has a sweet southern accent. Also has nice legs. And in the words of Jim Ross, WWE Hall of Famer, that Don Jezebel. Don't forget Facebook, YouTube, and Twitter. Send me shout outs and plugs through private messaging. If it does not, and it will be shouted out. If you don't send me some shout outs or plugs, won't be shouted out or plugged. And 2016, lots of surprises on these video blogs. Bye.